Hi there. Today we are going to be working on creating some intra-pelvic stability. Now that is basically just a fancy way of saying stabilizing your hips a little bit. And we are going to do so using a process I like to call micro movements. Micro movements, again, are exactly what they sound like. They are very tiny, tiny movements of the pelvis. So tiny, in fact, that you might kind of have a hard time seeing them. So in order to make this beneficial for you, I am going to encourage you to find a space flat on your back, floor, mat, wherever feels comfortable for you. And I am going to demonstrate this series some, but really focus on talking you through the type of movement we're trying to create so that you can experience the benefits of really honing in on those micro stabilization muscles that are responsible for keeping your pelvis strong and pulled together. Because my pelvis is feeling a little finicky today, I am going to use a support that I know works really well for me. I'm just going to pop a towel underneath my bum, which I have right here. This just provides me with a little bit of padding because the surface I'm on is a little bit hard and it doesn't always feel great to me. So if something like a support works well for you, go ahead and grab it, and then you can join me flat on your back. And like I said, I'm going to do a little bit of demonstration here so you can see, and then I'm going to talk you guys through it. But in essence, you guys are just going to find a space where you feel settled on the floor, and I want to just start with some grounding breath, as we always tend to do. You're going to take a couple big inhales and exhales. If you've done one of my breathwork videos, then you know we like to breathe into the back of the rib cage. We like to breathe into the sides of the rib cage. We like to soften the breath. Letting go of any spaces where you feel like you're gripping or guarding. Good. Now, for some of you guys here, you might feel right off the bat in this position that your inner thighs are grippy or trying to clench in to hold your knees upright. If you find that's the case, I encourage you to take a band or a ring, some sort of support that you can wrap around your legs so that your legs don't have to fight for the upright position. So if you feel like your inner thighs right now are like, eep, then go ahead and find something that maybe you can use to keep your legs just naturally in a parallel position. A band, a belt even could be helpful. And you're just gonna find your knees and feet in parallel. Now, as promised, we're doing a very micro sequence today. I want you guys to focus on the back of the pelvis. And at the back of the pelvis, you have this little bone. It's probably about yay big, called the sacrum. And your sacrum is this little bone at the very bottom of your spine. It sits in between both halves of your pelvis, and it keeps the pelvis nicely connected. Now, I want you to imagine that sacrum, which is about, again, maybe a couple inches tall, and I want you to think about tipping your hips so that you're going towards the very bottom of the sacrum. So you are going to tip your hips this way. I'm going to exaggerate this movement a lot just so you guys can see it. This is the direction in which I would like you to go. And then on the exhale, the movement is coming back into more of a pelvic tuck. Now, we are not doing it that big. We are doing such a tiny movement that I just want you to think about tipping your weight, tipping your pelvis, to the very bottom of the sacrum, And then on your exhale, just coming back to the top of the sacrum. So it's a very micro movement. And then on your inhale, again, tip to the bottom of the sacrum. And then on your exhale, tip to the top of the sacrum. And as you cycle through this, I want it to be so slow. I want you to really focus on just this very micro movement and check in if you need to make any shifts or adjustments. I will be very transparent. This movement, particularly these next two, they make me shift and wiggle so much because they get my pelvis really honest about where it should actually be sitting. Inhale to create just that little shift. And this should feel very tiny. Hopefully you start to feel maybe some little micro activations in and around the pelvis. We're not going for a huge of the muscles. You guys know I love to make that noise. We're not going through a huge grip of the muscles here. It's almost like we're just rocking back and forth on the bone. And as you cycle through this, you may find one half of the movement maybe feels a little stickier than the other. Try to breathe into that space. If any natural adjustments come along, feel free to take them. Continue to breathe. Maybe the movement starts to get just like a little bit bigger as you get more activation. Ooh, I felt my whole core kick on there. That feels quite nice. Gonna make a little adjustment. Oh, hopefully you guys are feeling a little more connected to the pelvis. And when you're ready, come back to rest in whatever feels like a neutral position to you. So the back of my hips feel nice and grounded to my towel now. So I'm actually going to try to take the towel away and just, yeah, that feels good. So we're going to add on a sequence now. And that is going to be another very micro movement where I want you guys to pop your fingertips on the bony part of your pelvis. So this bony part of the pelvis is going to be your landmark. And all I want you to do, I'm going to start with my left side here so you can see. All I want you to do is drop one half of your pelvis a tiny bit closer to the mat. And the other half of the pelvis is going to very naturally lift up towards the ceiling. Very small movement here, guys. Inhale back through center. And then exhale to the other side. Now, as you cycle through this, you're going to inhale into center. You're going to exhale to switch to the other side. And I want you guys to keep top of mind two things. This is a movement of the pelvis, not your legs. So if you guys are pushing your legs around to make this bigger, slow it down, make it a little bit smaller. Inhale. And again, we go back to the sacrum. The sacrum's that little bone in between two halves of the pelvis. It's like yay big across. I want you guys to make this so small, it's like you're just tipping to each side of the sacrum. You may feel that one half of the movement is a little stickier than the other, and I'm really going to encourage you not to force it. Okay, just Breathe into those spaces that maybe feel a little stickier, and don't try to just force a bigger movement. We're gonna try for maybe 6 to 8 per side. As always with the reps, it's really about what feels good to you. Once again, this is one of those movements where if you feel like you need to have something supporting your knees, you absolutely can. Alrighty, finish off maybe one more. You can do more if this is just feeling fantastic. Come back to whatever feels neutral to you. Just check in to see where your hips are. Check in to see where the upper body is. Beautiful. Let's go ahead, roll ourselves slowly up to seated. As always, give yourself a moment. Ooh, hello. Give yourself a moment to just let your blood flow redistribute. For anyone who may be here with POTS, give yourself some extra time to get up, to resettle. I know the level change can be a little tricky sometimes, so give yourself some time. Take some breath. See how your sits bones, your pelvis feels underneath you. Good. And now we are going to try 2 more micro activations for the pelvis in seated. Now, ideally, you're going to do this one seated on a chair, or kind of like me on whatever seated surface bench you might have accessible to you. If you have a band to loop around your knees, this can be a very helpful moment for that. However, I want this to be very accessible to people without equipment, so some of us can just use our hands. Place your hands very softly to the outsides of the thighs, and on your inhale, I want you to softly create some counter pressure, pressing the thighs out as your hands very softly press inward. And then softly go ahead and relax. And as you cycle through this, I want you guys to check in with where this activation is coming from. So as you cycle through this, I almost want you to think about your thigh bones. I'm going to turn around for a second. I want you to think as your knees go out, your thigh bones are coming into the hip socket. Now, I don't want to see a tuck under. I want you to stay nice and tall and supported on the sits bones as best you can. And I want you to think about the thigh bones getting deeper into the sacrum. Hello. And then they come kind of again back to neutral. So let's do this again together. We're going to go for about 4 more. Counter pressure, thigh bones into the hip sockets, into the sacrum. Oh, that is challenging. And then relax. And again, and at any point, if this, as always, starts to feel pinchy or not quite the movement for you, that's okay. Just bail out. It might just not be the exercise for you today. Let's go 2 more. Try not to hike up the shoulders. That is one if you carry tension up here like I do. Give me 1 more. That feels good though. And relax. Okay, last movement we're gonna do in this series. Hands to the inner thighs. Create again a little bit of counter pressure. Start a little wide. And then exhale, create just that soft counter pressure here. And then inhale, get a little taller. And exhale. Soft counter pressure. And as you cycle through this, make any little shifts or adjustments that you need to. You guys probably can't see, but my pelvis is like, deek, 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 deek. It's trying to sort out where it is. And that's okay. Start to feel the pelvic floor right down here. Maybe get a little active. And then inhale into some softness. And, ooh, these feel really good. I hope they do for you too. Let's go just 2 more. And exhale. And again, if this isn't feeling good for you shoulder and upper body wise, you can always use a prop. You can always use like a yoga block or a little squishy ball or a really thick pillow to give yourself that feedback. Ooh, yeah, that feels good. You saw my little wiggles? Alrighty, very, very nice job. So if I stand up and walk around right now, I'm gonna cut my own head off, but I'm gonna do it anyway because, ooh, I want you guys to just see how your hips feel. Take a little walk around the room. I gotta tell you, my hips almost feel like a little bit tired, which is good. They feel active, they feel engaged, but it just goes to show that those micro muscles, they can get some work in, and they should get some work in. So all of these exercises were really designed to almost like put the big superficial muscles to the side for a second, because those are the ones in hypermobility that are often trying to like take over for everything. And those are important muscles too, obviously, but it can be a little harder to access those little micro muscles and those micro mind-body joint connections. So these exercises really help just kind of settle all of those big muscles down and get the little ones kicked on for you. So I hope you guys are feeling good. That was a little bit of work for me, which is always nice to come back to. I am looking forward to seeing you in the next video.